it's after this fight you move up to welterweight.
Correct.
So can you just tell us about that decision and the process?
So, for a lot of my kickboxing fights, I was fighting a range of weights really, but over the years I was going lower and lower. Typically it's the other way around, but I got to a point where I was fighting at 72. So let's say for that summer or that year, my first fight was at 70, so 155, the MMA fight. Then the next one was 72.5. Then the one in the summer was meant to be for 70 as well. And that cut was quite a tough cut, getting down there. And I felt like I was focusing so much time and effort in making weight rather than actually improving my grappling. Yeah. So after that point, took a bit of time off from dieting or whatever else. I was like, let me just continue to improve my skills. Yeah. Then the summer came, I think I went away for a little bit, ate a little bit more food. And then by the time I got into camp, I think the fight was in December 10th. So I started getting into the camp probably 8 weeks out or so, which was, end of September, start of October. And I was thinking, all right, and I was speaking to my coach, said, okay, we need to focus on improving your grappling rather than focusing on making weight. Yeah. Which meant that, all right, let's just fight our higher weight class for this one, because that should be the key focus. And I say this to a lot of the people coming up in terms of their striking. Especially for interclubs and stuff like that, you shouldn't be focusing on your weight. Everyone comes up with, oh, what weight do I need to be, or it's going to be same day weighing, etc. I'm like, well, actually, weight shouldn't be a factor at this time, at this moment in time. And so I had a bit of a reflection of speaking to my coaches and myself, and I was like, actually, my main focus should be putting on a good performance and improving. And as you continue to progress in the sport, you can then start changing or tweaking different variables, because I felt on that fight in the summer in particular, it wasn't a great cut. Now we're talking about reasons or whatever. It wasn't a great cut. So it didn't have the energy on the night of the fight. And on that, when I actually weighed in, it was, again, 155. I think it got down to 156.5 or whatever else, and then they ended up accepting the fight. But essentially, wasn't best cuts. And on the time after, I was like, actually, that I need to not focus on that, especially right now. So going forward, I was like, all right, let's just get this at 77 or 170 kilos, or 170 pounds, should I say, and just continue to improve the grappling. So that was what happened, and that was the thought process behind it.
Yeah. And so after that, you get a shot in for the Cage Warriors Southeast welterweight title, which you won. Yeah. Which congratulations! I know it's last year now, but which was really impressive first round.
Yeah.
You had to deal with. Was this where you had to deal with a replacement opponent?
Yeah, but I've been dealing with replacement opponents all the time.
That's why I was a bit unsure.
No, like every single fight there's been replacement opponents. But this one in particular, because it wasn't meant to be for the welterweight title initially. Right. It was I was fighting. There was a few changes, but essentially I was facing someone, and then in the end, the person, my opponent, I don't want to butcher his name, so I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, that's why.
But he was fighting for the title against someone else. He ended up having to pull out. Yeah. And I had to pull out at the same time or that same week. So then I got sort of bumped up for that. Right. And it was against again another experienced fighter, experienced grappler. Judo was sort of his main skill set. Although he's had, again, I don't know what his record is to mine now, but I do know there was a winning record, and it was quite a good one, and clearly more than mine, particularly in MMA. So that was the fight, and so that was the fight we had, and it went in my way.
When you hear it's for like the Cage Warriors Southeast welterweight title, and again, like you say, I know you're used to it at this point, but it's a change of opponent. Yeah, what's going through your mind? Is there a bit of stress there where you're like, do I want to do this?
No, do you know what it was? It was, again, knowing that I was improving in my training, I just wanted to fight. Yeah. And we had the change of opponent. I was like, just hoping that I got an opponent. And I got an opponent, I was like, all right, cool, thankful for that. And then I heard it was for the title as well. And it was interesting because I was saying to people, I was glad the title was on the line, I'm glad I got it. But I was happier to get the win than to get the title.
Right.
Given what happened in the summer, and it shows my progress. Now, saying that, before going into MMA and you sort of scope in the landscape, Cage Warriors Academy is a reputable promotion. So I was like, that's the promotion I wanted to fight on. Getting the title from the Cage Warriors Academy was a milestone for me, you know. And there are a number of other milestones I wish to be sort of ticking off throughout my MMA career, but that was one of them. So the fact that I was able to fight for it and win it was good, because I suspected, again, planning your own journey, I was thinking, all right, now this is without taking into consideration a couple of years we had off. I was like, all right, cool, I'll have 4 or 5 MMA fights in terms of amateurs, and that will be my 5th fight, for example. I'll win the title, and then we can look over turning pro, basically. So that's what I had in my head. So the fact that it came in a bit earlier, the fact that it came against a good opponent as well, I was quite happy for. And yeah, double the happiness, the fact that it was for the title and I got the win.
And was this the first time that you had Brad in your corner?
This was the first time I had Brad in the corner.
Yeah. How was that, having like a veteran like MMA fighter? Could you notice like a difference in the feel of it?
So beforehand, I had a good friend of mine, Darren O'Gorman, MMA fighter as well. So he's very experienced in his own regard, fought on Cage Warriors multiple times as a pro, BJJ black belt. So he's quite experienced in his own regard. Naturally not as experienced as Brad Pickett, you know. And I had Paul, who has been my long time, you know, striking coach. But the fact that we had Paul and Brad in the corner was quite a good combination, as good as the other, but in that you're listening to someone who's coaching you throughout the sequence. So it's funny, on the feet was like I had Paul, you know, showing different instructions. I was listening to him, and he's quite a familiar voice. So I had that, and that was quite good. And then as soon as we got to the floor, Brad then sort of jumped in and gave his own advice, basically, which was good to hear. And thankfully, I was in the corner we were quite close to my corner. And by that point, his voice became quite familiar. It's quite a distinct voice. So listening to exactly what he was saying was quite useful, because you know he's been there, done it, he knows what he's talking about. So yeah, and then straight after the fight, actually, it was like, what do you think? He was like, yeah, it was good. You could have tweaked this from this position. You could have done that. So even then, it's like, although it was a good performance, I'm still looking to see the improvements straight away, what I could have done. And the fact that he has those answers straight away is quite reassuring, based on the experience that he has, obviously.
So that was last year, and I think there was a delay recently with Cage Warriors Academy Southeast.
Correct.
Yeah. So what's next for you on the MMA side of things? When will you looking to compete again? And also, you kind of mentioned there about the plans of turning pro eventually.
Yeah. So my next fight is going to be on the 10th of September.
Right. Yeah.
So
Colchester.
No, actually. So it's going to be on Immortal Champions.
Yeah.
Which in the past has primarily been a Muay Thai and K1 sort of show.
Sure.
However, they've sort of embraced the MMA sort of popularity, and they're doing some MMA fights in there as well.
Yeah.
Pro MMA. So that's the plan. We're going to be turning over pro.
Oh, brilliant.
On the 10th of September.
Yeah.
The reasoning for that is, again, I wanted to get a bit more experience beforehand in an ideal world. Yeah. The world isn't ideal, so we keep it moving. You know. So I think it's been the right time, I think, for me to turn over and just have a go at being a pro in MMA as well.
Yeah. Opponent announced yet?
An opponent's not announced yet.
Yeah.
It's finalised. I don't want to sort of jump the gun and release it as such.
Yeah.
But,
especially MMA, right?
Yeah. But the opponent's announced, from my understanding, good opponent, comes from a good camp, and is also experienced as well. So, you know, same thing up until this point in regard to, in terms of MMA, going to be more experienced than I am, understandably, and he's going to be able to mix up. And what I've over sort of the year, 2 years since I've been training, thankfully my training's been getting better, and I've sort of started to embrace the whole MMA as such, rather than just, because each time I'm in the gym and Brad's always like, or I ever mention, oh, I'm a striker, he says, no, you're not a striker, you're an MMA fighter.
Yeah.
You know, so there's that, and which was quite difficult to separate from initially, given how long I've quotation been a striker. But also with that, the flip side is understand that I'm in an MMA fight.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact that people will be shooting at me, and the fact that I'm sort of embracing it as such.
Yeah.
You know, people want to be standing on me, fine, fantastic. If they want to shoot at me, even better. It doesn't really matter, to be honest, because I'm now a lot more comfortable being on the floor. I think with anyone, there's usually a bit of panic when you get taken down. But the fact is, over the years, through training with good people, is, you know, they're a lot more comfortable in various positions, and there's less of a panic. So it's like, you get taken out, absolutely fine. Work on this, work on that, get back onto the feet if need be, or even be threatening on the floor, you know, and then get back onto the feet. So so welcome it. It's about 5.5 weeks to go now, until then, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Brilliant. Who's like your main partners, training partners that you're working with? I mean, across GB Top Team, Bloodline, and any other gym that you're working at the moment, like on the MMA side of things?
So on the MMA side of things, I mean, you know, with the striking, it's always going to be, you know, Bloodline.
Yeah,
and those are the guys,
sure.
you know, we have spoken about in the past, you know, Phil Casper, Arnold, etc., Paul, and you've got loads of, you know, talented fighters up and coming. You've got Cyril, Tommy, Zach and Josh, who all had a really good showing on the recent Combat Fight Series show. So they're all doing really good stuff. But in terms of MMA, in terms of GB Top, it's a huge team. Massive, you know, you've got at a minimum 20 people on the mats every day, basically. But the people who I've been training on a regular basis, I'd say, would be you got Walter Gazada, you got Alex Lahore, you've got James Howland as well, or Howlett. Those are 3 people I'm regularly training with, and then you dip and change with so many different people. You got Teo. I don't want to leave anyone out. There's so many different people, you know. And when Mark DeCasey's down, sparring and training with Mark DeCasey, obviously UFC fighter, UFC vet. It's always nice to get some rounds with Nathaniel Wood as well. But you got someone who Emra Sonmez, who's about to make his Dana White Contender Series sort of debut. But yeah, there's so many different people, and the fact that they do so many rounds with like when you're there in terms of live rounds, you chopping and change with different body shapes, sizes, skill sets. So it's always really good. So it's hard to name everyone, you know. So apologies for leaving some people out, but I'd say those are the main people I'm usually getting some working with.